The idea today is to talk about Dakinis, because this has been my particular work, being so privileged to just hang out with these women and watch them go blossom, into such a fullness so fast, and help them along with lessons that I sort of took maybe 15 years of hard grind and struggle, and of an afternoon we kind of get through that. Partly jealous and partly amazed. The work they do, the space they hold, particularly for men and women too, but the space they hold is very rare, very unusual, very unavailable in the world generally. There's good reasons for that. The space they hold, what's so particular about it is that it's absolutely unbounded, and it has, what you would say, no restraint in the sense of ethics or guidelines being a restraint. Most of us, the view of ethics, or a right way, a wrong way, an appropriate way, a not appropriate way, it's kind of a list of rules. This is appropriate, that's not appropriate, etc. There's no such thing in the work of a Dakini. If there is any restraint, any restriction to what happens, for example, in a session, the restriction is the student's restriction. Students perfectly at liberty to come to a Dakini, for example, and say, I want to learn of Tantra, I'm very interested in this, I'd like you to take me on as a student, but I am married, and my wife and I have this rule, question, penis in the vagina, only with her, it's not going to happen anywhere else. And the Dakini will go, well, interesting, you should think that would happen, but never mind, perfectly good, there's your restriction. And, she'll work in terms of that, no problem. But she works without restraint. She looks at where you are, where the guy approaching her is, and all she's looking at is what's the immediate step, what's the next movement for him right now. And it's apparent to them. Their intuition is developed to a point where there's no real debate on it. Sometimes before the session starts, they're going, well, strange, I haven't had my intuition of what's happening. So what to do, get out a Sarita and Geho book, read up an exercise or two, remember these things. Maybe we'll do some of those sort of things. The guy arrives and it's apparent. Okay, forget all that. This is what we're doing. And the range of what can happen is huge. It's as huge a range as human. How do you say? It's a range as wide as the lessons that need to be delivered. If someone's got confusions, somehow got ideas of power and control mixed up with love, maybe because their parents, smacked them, which is quite power and control, and then told them, I didn't smack you because I love you, or something like that. And someone might have to go into what's called sort of BDSM, bondage, domination, sadomasochism kind of work. The main difference between the way a Dakini handles that and the way the kind of BDSM scene or sexual healing kind of scene handles it is she's not interested to make it part of your lifestyle, or part of her lifestyle, or part of anybody's lifestyle. It's just you've got some confusion around that. Great, let's show you power and love together in great context. Let's show you these things so you can get to know the difference between them and dive into them very fast, go through the experience as totally, as fast, as intently as possible. This is scary, to approach that kind of work, to approach someone, to go into someone's space when she's going to just look at you and whatever is required, this is what's happening. You're going to have your feelings about it, and that's just part of it, getting through your feelings. It's also approaching, and you know for sure the stuff you're going to be approaching is stuff that's going to be edgy for you, stuff that's going to be hard for you. And this is where, in the history of Tantra, there's been an ancient theme always running that where the temple is, the temple will be at the burning huts. Or when Saraha started teaching, he set up tents at the burning hut. Burning huts, or the charnel grounds, the graveyard, the place where people die, the place where people of a city go to have their bodies disposed of. In India, it's a burning hut by the river. They burn the body, chuck the ashes. That's the place in town, the place in a city, the place in the human environment where everyone wants to go least, yeah? Sort of given a choice of where to go in the city. If you're in a new city, you don't generally go, I want to see the graveyards, unless you're a fan of someone buried there. Or I want to see the burning hut. Of course, the burning hut doesn't commemorate anyone who's died there. They just got burned. No grave, no marker. You don't have that implication to it. It's not a place where anyone wants to go and hang out. It's a place of death. It's the last place we all have to go. Oh, shit. But that's Tantra. If you're heading for the darkest of your spaces, if you're heading for the places nobody else wants to go, if you're intent that I want this path, I want the speed of it, I understand the risks of it, and I'm taking it on, then that's where the energy of approaching this burning ground, this area of death, and willingly approaching it, and approaching the Dakini's teaching is, on the one hand, so challenging, on the other hand, so very powerful, so very fast. This association with the graveyards, the charnel grounds, the necessary stories for seekers of dread and, to encourage their fears, get them through their fears before they even approach the Dakini, tell them every dread story about her kind of thing, so that if they then do approach, it's like they've accepted all that already. Okay, she may be a fierce flesh-eating aspect, So stories of Dakinis in graveyards, chopping of heads, drinking blood, blood being the spirit, etc. And you can see in this, Dakinis have come across to the west a little. From that, you can see the legend of vampires. There's nice of it too. Once upon a time, some areas, what Dakinis did, they formed temples. One place they formed a lot of temples, 80 temples around a little nothing town. And the work of these temples, the sort of social fit of them, what they did in the culture, was local kings would have their wars, not like our wars that go on forever, but their wars were usually quite polite and limited, but they'd have their war, they'd have their battle, soldiers would be battered, bruised, cut, wounded, etc. And of course, psychologically suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And they'd bring at least their officer class by these temples and send them in, and the Dakinis would receive these wounded, broken men and just fix them and return them good as new, and they can go off to the land and do whatever they did until the next war. And from that, gently, Theravada Theravada Buddhism, words like therapeutic coming into English, into Western culture, and the Dakinis are part of the therapeutic line. And really are our nurses these days, nurses, midwives, you can say, are the descendants of the Dakini in that way as well.